And then after The Book Thief, I picked up Soldier X by Wolfson. This is one I've had on my shelf for a while. Um, this one is about a German soldier in World War II who, um, he, during a battle, like, most of his squadron were killed by the Russians, and so he essentially switches uniforms with a dead Russian soldier and pretends to be Russian because his I think like his grandmother is Russian or something. His grandparents were Russian, so he knows the language and all that. um, so essentially, he kind of slips into the Russian army, just randomly. I don't know. Um, this and I mean, in reality, there's not that much to this book. Like, I wasn't. I mean, it's not a bad book, but I was kind of like, indifferent about it. It was an interesting story, but it wasn't quite as intriguing as I thought it would be when I read the synopsis. Because most of the book he's actually stuck in the hospital because of injuries. So, and then he's running after that, and then like his German comrades end up trying to kill him and all that because they think he's Russian now. So he's essentially just a giant turncoat. Um, I don't know, but anyway, yeah, I didn't really care for this one too much. I think it could have been a better story if there had been more to it. It kind of fell flat in places. So I gave this one a 3 out of 5 star. It was an interesting book, but probably will not read it again. But it was short enough, so it didn't really feel like that much of a loss. After that, I tried to pick up a couple. I take a break from World War II books and picked up a couple like creepier books for Halloween, which I usually read all months, but I didn't get a chance to do that this year. So the first one I picked up was The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. Um, this one is one I've been wanting to read for a while. I picked it up at a used bookstore a while back, and um, this was just a really cool story. It's about a boy who his family was murdered when he was just a baby, and he somehow escaped into this graveyard, and he was raised by the ghosts that lived there. Um, and I just think that is an awesome premise, and Neil Gaiman is so good with that kind of stuff. Plus, I love his writing style. It's just so lyrical and whimsical, and it's just really cool. Um, so, the boy's name is Nobody because he didn't really have a name, and that's the kind of name ghosts give you if you're adopted by them, apparently. Um, but yeah, he was essentially, it kind of goes. I really liked how this one was written kind of in parts. Like, each chapter is kind of its own story. So, it's kind of his experience growing up. Um, and trying to like kind of find out where he fits in the world and trying to understand why no one really wants him running around outside the graveyard, but because it's really for his own safety, since the man who killed his family is still out there. But yeah, there is just a lot of really cool stuff in this, and really neat illustrations as well. This is the illustrated version, even though it's still paperback. But I was happy it had the illustrations in it as well. Um, but yeah, it was just a really fun book. Um, and it wasn't like it kind of was more kind of gothic than actually creepy. Although the Jack characters were actually pretty creepy in my opinion. But anyway, um, just a really good story and perfect for like middle grade and adults alike. But yeah, I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars, I think. After that, I picked up this new release from the library. It's called The Call by, I think, I can't find the author's name, but I think it's Peter O'Gulen. Um, and this is such a weird book. I'm gonna say that right now. Okay, so it's based off fairy lore. but it's kind of like, I don't know, fairy apocalypse, which I've read a couple books like that, which are weird. Like, I just find that really weird. So essentially, let me try to sum this up. Essentially, in this universe, fairies. Okay, it's just weird. I'm gonna try to sum this up for you. Okay, so the fairies, typical fairies, they live in the fairy world. Apparently, like, way back when, there was a huge, like, the humans in the Irish people, locked the fairies away into, like, this really inclement realm. And now they, for some reason, have found some chink in the armor. Like, so the one thing is that not a lot of things were explained in this book, which kind of annoyed me. That they can pull people in and, like, at random, like, but only, like, teenagers. I don't know. And once the people are inside, it's like a free for all, and essentially the fairies just hunt them and they, if they catch them, which is typical, they'll torture them and kill them and maim them in horrible ways. Um, and if the people survive, they're like messed up for the rest of their lives because after, like, they come back to the human realm after like an hour or so. Like, I don't know. It was just really weird. So essentially, like, it, it's kind of like almost a dystopian universe, but not really. Mainly, like, teenagers from, like, the time they're 10 to 20, which I think is the cutoff period of when the fairies take them. They, they are, interred at these schools where they essentially are just trained to fight, and run from fairies. So if they are called, then they'll have a better chance. Um, but, so, essentially, obviously, it gets worse, and fairies start popping up everywhere and slaughtering a bunch of the people at the schools. Um, and obviously, the main character and her friends need to, like, figure out what's going on. I can't. I think her name was Nessa. Was the main character. She was okay. Like, she's not my favorite character ever. Plus the fact that this is one of those books that you can't really, get attached to anyone because they'll probably die at some point. Um, and those always kind of annoy me because, like, whatever. Just got to know this character. Um, but I don't know. Like, I think this was one of those books that had really good potential, but it kind of just fell through for me. Because it was just really weird. And it wasn't very well thought out, in my opinion. I think, like, there could have been a lot more information that we were given to help us kind of understand what was going on better. Um, but apart from that, I don't know. It was just, I don't know. It wasn't, like, the fairies, I like evil fairies because that was, like, kind of how they were portrayed. But at the same time, there was just a lot of weird in the fairy realm. Like, just weird, freakish creatures. And, like, to the point where this wasn't really scary so much as just freakish. Like, and I'm not really into that. But, so I ended up giving this 3 out of 5 stars. Interesting idea. If this is a series, I think it may be. I don't think I'll be reading the next book. Actually, I don't know if this is a series. I can't remember. It seemed to end kind of whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I probably won't read the next one though. After that, I've picked up The Creeping Shadow by Jonathan Stroud. This is the 4th book in the Lockwood and Company series, the new one that came out this year, and this was fantastic. I think I like these more and more as we go on. I ended up giving this one 5 out of 5 stars. It was a really, really good story. I adore these characters so much. Lucy is just such an awesome heroine and, narrator as well. And I love Lockwood. He's just really, really awesome as well. And he wears a long coat. And he's just cool. Um, I really liked how this book really kept up the integrity of the characters and the relationships, even though it was a little rocky in this one. I really liked how Jonathan Stroud really kept it feeling like the other books in the series, because a lot of times when there's like the character breakup thing, then it's like kind of rocky getting back together, and there's angst, and there's some of that, but I think it's portrayed in a really good way, that it's kind of like, even though there is some of that, they still were able to work together like they used to. Um, so it didn't like make problems on on their hunts and everything. But I thought the this one revealed a lot of cool things that are gonna be I'm pretty sure they're gonna be important in later books in the series. So I was really excited to for the wrap up of this one, because it just left a lot of really interesting points that are probably going to be answered. I don't want to say too much, because if you haven't read the series, then it'll just kind of like be spoilery. But um, anyway, I really loved this one. It was just great. I always love these so much. The final book I finished this month was Small Favor by Jim Butcher. I think the 11th Dresden novel, 11th book in the Dresden Files. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. This was a really good one. I think one of my favorite ones I've read recently. I really, I don't know. I like the storylines that deal with the Denarians, because I think they're kind of interesting, and they're like really baddies, for lack of a better term. But yeah, this one was really good. This one made me laugh a lot. I don't know why. Like, I guess it was just really funny. I just remember laughing like through most of this one. But yeah, really liked it. Really like heart-wrenching ending as well. Which can happen in Dresden, because it's like you're laughing one minute and then you're like sobbing the next. I'm really looking forward to continuing the series as always, except that I have a dwindling amount of them now. But anyway, that doesn't mean I will stop reading them. So that was my October wrap up. And hopefully I can do as good in November, because I'm trying to catch up with my Goodreads challenge for the end of the month, or for the end of the year. So anyway, I'll be back with my book haul soon. So I'll see you then. Bye.